Ladies and gentlemen, happiness. It's what we all seek, yet it feels so distant at times. We chase it in success, in wealth, in relationships, believing that one day, if we have enough, we will finally be happy. But let me ask you, have you ever met people who have everything yet feel empty inside? And have you ever met those who have lost everything but still radiate joy? I have learned that happiness is not found in the things we possess or the circumstances we face. It is found within. And today, I want to share with you the secret to being truly happy. Happiness is something we all desire, something we chase, believing that one day, if we achieve enough, if we look a certain way, if life unfolds according to our perfect plan, we will finally be happy. But what if I told you that happiness does not come from controlling everything? What if I told you that the secret to true happiness is not in changing the world around you, but in changing the way you see yourself and your life? The moment we stop fighting against reality and start accepting it, we set ourselves free. That is the true power of acceptance. Most of the pain in life comes not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to it. We resist change, we resist hardship, we resist imperfection. We hold on to past mistakes, replaying them over and over again in our minds, as if reliving them will somehow undo them. We look at ourselves in the mirror and criticize every flaw, wishing we were someone else, someone better, someone society would approve of. We measure our worth against impossible standards, always feeling like we are falling short. And in that resistance, we suffer. But what if, instead of resisting, we embraced life as it is? What if we embraced ourselves as we are? Acceptance does not mean giving up. It does not mean settling for less or resigning to a life of mediocrity. It means acknowledging reality without judgment. It means understanding that some things are beyond our control, and that is okay. It means knowing that we are not defined by our struggles, our failures, or the opinions of others. It means looking at ourselves, our past, our present, and even our future with kindness rather than criticism. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, seeing yourself not with disappointment, but with love. Imagine looking at your life, even with its hardships and setbacks, and saying, "This is my journey, and I accept it." That kind of acceptance is powerful. It does not make you weak. It makes you unbreakable. Because when you stop seeking validation from the world, when you stop waiting for life to be perfect before you allow yourself to be happy, you take back your power. Think about a river flowing through a valley. The river does not resist the rocks in its path. It flows around them. It does not try to change the course of the mountains. It carves its way through them, shaping the landscape over time. The river does not complain about the obstacles in its way. It moves with them. That is what acceptance does. It allows you to move with life rather than against it. It gives you the strength to navigate hardships without breaking. But let's be honest, acceptance is not always easy. We have been taught to believe that if something is wrong, we must fight it. If we do not like something about ourselves, we must change it. And yes, growth is important, improvement is valuable, but growth does not come from self-hatred. Change does not come from constantly criticizing ourselves. The paradox of life is that true transformation begins with acceptance. The moment we accept ourselves as we are, we create the space to grow into who we are meant to be. Think about a person who struggles with self-worth. They spend years trying to fit into a mold, trying to be what society expects them to be. They change their appearance, their personality, their dreams, only to feel more lost than before. But the moment they stop trying to be someone else, the moment they accept who they truly are, they find peace. They realize that they were never meant to be like everyone else. Their uniqueness is their strength, and in that moment of acceptance, they become free. This is true for all of us. We are constantly waiting for the right circumstances, the right moment, the right version of ourselves to be happy. I'll be happy when I lose weight. I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be happy when I find the perfect relationship. But happiness does not come from fixing everything outside of us. It comes from embracing what is already within us. Of course, life will not always be kind. We will face disappointments. We will experience pain. There will be moments when we feel lost, when we wonder why things had to happen the way they did. But when we accept that life is unpredictable, that hardships are a part of the journey, we stop fearing them. We stop feeling like victims of our circumstances and start seeing ourselves as warriors, capable of facing whatever comes our way. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is self-acceptance. To look at yourself, flaws and all, and say, I am enough. To embrace your past without shame, knowing that every experience, every mistake, every heartbreak has shaped you into who you are today. To stop comparing yourself to others, because your journey is yours alone, and it is beautiful in its own way. So, let go of the resistance. Let go of the need to be perfect. Accept yourself, accept your life, and watch how happiness finds its way to you. Because happiness does not come from being someone else. It comes from fully embracing who you already are. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces in the world, yet it is often overlooked. People spend their lives searching for happiness in success, wealth, relationships, and material things, believing that once they have everything they desire, they will finally feel fulfilled. But have you ever noticed that even after achieving something great, the happiness that comes with it is temporary? The excitement fades, and soon the mind shifts to the next goal, the next thing that is missing. This endless cycle of wanting more can leave people feeling empty and dissatisfied. But what if happiness has nothing to do with what we have or what we achieve? What if true happiness lies in appreciating what we already have? That is the power of gratitude. Gratitude is the ability to see the beauty in what is, rather than constantly longing for what could be. It is about focusing on the good, even when life is not perfect. There will always be struggles. There will always be moments of disappointment, loss, and uncertainty. But gratitude allows us to shift our perspective. Instead of dwelling on what we lack, it teaches us to appreciate what we already possess. Instead of feeling like victims of our circumstances, we begin to see how even the most difficult experiences have shaped us into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate individuals. Life is unpredictable. Some days are filled with joy, while others bring pain. But no matter what happens, there is always something to be grateful for. Even in our darkest moments, gratitude gives us a reason to keep going. It reminds us that despite everything, we are still breathing, still alive, still capable of love, laughter, and growth. It helps us realize that we are never truly alone, that there are people who care about us, and that even small moments of kindness can make a difference. One of the most incredible things about gratitude is its ability to transform pain into strength. When life knocks us down, it is easy to feel defeated. It is easy to focus on everything that has gone wrong, to wonder why things did not turn out the way we hoped. But gratitude allows us to reframe our struggles. Instead of seeing pain as something that breaks us, we begin to see it as something that shapes us. Every hardship carries a lesson. Every loss teaches us something about ourselves. Every challenge gives us an opportunity to grow. And when we start focusing on what we have learned rather than what we have lost, we become stronger. Think about a person who has experienced failure. Maybe they worked hard for something, poured their heart and soul into it, only to see it slip away. In that moment, it is easy to feel like everything was for nothing. But if they choose gratitude, if they choose to see the lessons within their struggle, they will realize that failure is not the end. It is a new beginning. It is a chance to learn, to improve, to come back even stronger. And when they finally achieve success, it will mean even more because they know what it took to get there. Gratitude does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that everything is perfect. It does not mean forcing ourselves to be happy when we are struggling. It simply means choosing to see the good, even when things are difficult. It means acknowledging our hardships while still appreciating the blessings in our lives. It means recognizing that even in the midst of suffering, there is still beauty to be found. One of the simplest ways to practice gratitude is to start paying attention to the little things. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the laughter of a loved one, the feeling of a deep breath filling your lungs. These moments may seem small, but they are what make life meaningful. Too often, people take these things for granted, only realizing their value once they are gone. But when we start to notice and appreciate them in the present, we begin to see just how much we have to be thankful for. Another powerful way to cultivate gratitude is by expressing it. Telling the people in our lives how much they mean to us. Taking the time to say thank you, not just for the big things, but for the small acts of kindness that often go unnoticed. Writing down the things we are grateful for, even on difficult days, as a reminder that there is always something to appreciate. The more we practice gratitude, the more it becomes a natural part of our mindset. And the more we focus on what we have, the less we feel the need to chase after things that will never truly satisfy us. Gratitude is a choice. It is not dependent on our circumstances, but on our perspective. Some of the happiest people in the world are not the ones who have everything. They are the ones who appreciate everything they have. They are the ones who, despite their struggles, find joy in the simplest moments. They are the ones who turn pain into wisdom, loss into appreciation, and hardships into strength. At the end of the day, happiness is not about waiting for life to be perfect. It is about learning to see the beauty in what is already there. Gratitude is the key that unlocks that happiness. It allows us to find joy not in what we lack, but in what we already have. And when we embrace this mindset, we realize that happiness was never something to be found. It was something we had all along. Giving without expecting anything in return is one of the most profound ways to find true happiness. In a world where everything seems to be measured by transactions, where people often give with the expectation of receiving something in return, true generosity stands out. It is rare yet incredibly powerful. When we give without expecting anything, we experience a kind of fulfillment that cannot be found in material wealth, status, or external achievements. The joy that comes from seeing someone smile because of a small act of kindness. The warmth we feel when we help someone in need. The sense of purpose we gain when we make a difference in someone's life. These are things that no amount of money can buy. Society often teaches us that success and happiness come from taking opportunities, taking recognition, taking what we believe we deserve. But the truth is, the deepest form of happiness comes not from taking, but from giving. There is something incredibly beautiful about lifting others up, about knowing that your words, your actions, and your kindness have made someone else's burden a little lighter. The more we give, the more we realize that happiness is not a destination we reach alone. It is something we create together. One of the biggest misconceptions about giving is that it requires grand gestures. People often think that generosity is only for those who have a lot to offer, whether it be wealth, influence, or resources. But the most meaningful forms of giving are often the simplest. A kind word to someone who is struggling. A moment of your time to listen to someone who feels unheard. A smile to a stranger who may be fighting a battle you know nothing about. These small acts, though they may seem insignificant, have the power to change lives. There is something magical that happens when we shift our focus from ourselves to others. Many people spend their lives searching for happiness, believing that it will come when they achieve a certain goal, reach a certain milestone, or gain the approval of others. But happiness is not something we find by looking inward and obsessing over our own needs. It is something we discover when we open our hearts to those around us, when we make an effort to spread kindness, to share love, to give with no strings attached. We realize that joy multiplies when it is shared. Think about the moments in your life when you have felt the happiest. Chances are, those moments were not defined by what you received, but by what you gave. The time you helped a friend through a difficult situation. The time you surprised someone with an act of kindness. The time you gave without anyone knowing, without seeking recognition, simply because it felt right. Those moments stay with us, not because they brought us external rewards, but because they filled our hearts with something deeper than personal gain, connection, meaning, and purpose. Giving also has the power to heal. There are times in life when we feel lost, broken, or overwhelmed by our own struggles. In those moments, it is easy to withdraw, to focus on our pain, to believe that we have nothing left to offer. But sometimes, the best way to heal ourselves is by helping others. When we step outside of our own suffering and choose to be there for someone else, we begin to see our own struggles in a new light. We realize that we are not alone. That just as we have the ability to help others, others have the ability to help us. That life is not about facing hardships in isolation, but about supporting each other through them. Some of the most inspiring people in the world are those who have faced unimaginable hardships, yet choose to give despite their pain. They are the ones who turn their struggles into strength, their losses into lessons, their heartbreaks into opportunities to love even more deeply. They know that true generosity does not come from having an easy life, but from having a compassionate heart. They understand that even in their own moments of suffering, they can still bring light into the lives of others, and in doing so, they find healing, strength, and a deeper sense of fulfillment than they ever thought possible. Another beautiful thing about giving is that it creates a ripple effect. A single act of kindness can inspire countless others. When you show someone kindness, they are more likely to pass it on. The stranger you help today might help someone else tomorrow. The child you encouraged might grow up to inspire a whole generation. The person you supported during a difficult time might one day do the same for another. We often underestimate the impact of our actions, but kindness has a way of spreading far beyond what we can see. It is important to remember that giving is not about recognition. It is not about being praised or admired. True giving comes from the heart, expecting nothing in return. When we give with pure intentions, without seeking validation, we experience a kind of happiness that is deeper and more meaningful than anything external rewards can offer. The joy of knowing that we made a difference, even in the smallest way, is a reward in itself. At the end of the day, happiness is not something we keep to ourselves. It is something we share. The more we give, the more we receive, not in material ways, but in love, in joy, in human connection. When we live with an open heart, when we choose to give selflessly, we discover that the true secret to happiness is not in what we get from the world, but in what we give back to it. The stories we tell ourselves shape the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, and ultimately, the way we live our lives. Our minds are constantly creating narratives, stories about who we are, what we can and cannot do, and what the world expects from us. Sometimes these stories empower us. They give us confidence, strength, and purpose. But more often than not, the stories we tell ourselves hold us back. They whisper in our ears that we are not good enough, that we will never succeed, that we are not worthy of happiness. These stories become the invisible walls that keep us from reaching our full potential. And the most dangerous part? We don't even realize that we are the ones writing them. From a young age, we absorb beliefs from the world around us. We internalize the words of our parents, teachers, friends, and even strangers. If we are told that we are not smart enough, we begin to believe it. If we are told that we are not attractive enough, we start seeing ourselves through that lens. If we face failure, rejection, or heartbreak, we start crafting a story in which we are destined to fail, where happiness is something that belongs to others, but not to us. These narratives become the background music of our lives, constantly playing in our minds, influencing every choice we make. And yet, most people never stop to question them. But here's the truth. Just because we have believed a story for a long time does not mean it is true. Just because we have told ourselves something over and over again does not mean we have to keep believing it. We have the power to change the narrative. We have the power to rewrite the stories that limit us, to create a new version of ourselves. One that is not based on fear, doubt, or past mistakes, but on hope, strength, and possibility. Imagine a person who has been told all their life that they are not capable of achieving great things. Maybe they failed a test once as a child, and from that moment on, they convinced themselves that they were not intelligent. Maybe they were told that success is reserved for a certain type of person, and since they didn't fit that mold, they stopped trying. They created a story in which they were destined to be average, and because they believed it, they lived it. But what if, instead of believing that old story, they chose to rewrite it? What if they told themselves that intelligence is not something fixed, but something that grows with effort? What if they started believing that success is not reserved for a select few, but for those who are willing to work for it? The moment they change their narrative, their actions will follow. They will start trying again. They will start learning again. And in time, they will prove to themselves that the old story was never true to begin with. The way we talk to ourselves matters. Our minds are always listening, always absorbing the words we use to describe ourselves and our lives. If we constantly say, I am unlucky, I am not good enough, or I always fail, we will start living according to those words. But if we choose to say, I am resilient, I am worthy, and I am capable, we will start living in alignment with that new belief. The words we use shape our reality. They determine how we show up in the world, how we approach challenges, and how we interact with others. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending that life is perfect. It is about choosing which version of reality we want to focus on. Every situation in life has multiple perspectives. A failure can be seen as a sign that we are not good enough, or it can be seen as a lesson that makes us stronger. A rejection can be seen as proof that we are unworthy, or it can be seen as redirection towards something better. The facts do not change, but the way we interpret them does. And the way we interpret them determines how we feel, how we act, and ultimately, what kind of life we create for ourselves. There are people who have faced unimaginable hardships, people who have lost everything, people who have been told by the world that they will never succeed. And yet, they rise. They rise not because they have an easier path, but because they refuse to let their hardships define them. They refuse to be trapped by old narratives. They choose to see themselves as survivors rather than victims. They choose to find meaning in their struggles rather than let their struggles break them. And because they believe in a new story, they create a new reality. It is never too late to change the narrative. No matter how long you have believed a certain story about yourself, you can choose a new one today. You can choose to stop seeing yourself as someone who is broken, unworthy, or not enough. You can choose to see yourself as someone who is strong, capable, and deserving of happiness. And the moment you do, everything changes. Because when you believe in a different story, you start making different choices. And when you make different choices, you create a different life. The most powerful thing you can do is take control of your own narrative. Do not let society, past experiences, or the voices of others write your story for you. You are the author of your own life. You have the power to turn the page, to start a new chapter, to create a story where you are not held back by fear, but driven by courage. A story where you do not let your past define you, but use it as fuel to build a future you are proud of. A story where happiness is not something you wait for, but something you choose to create. Happiness is not something we find. It is something we create through the choices we make every single day. Too often people think happiness is a destination, something they will reach when everything in their life is perfect. They believe that once they get their dream job, find the perfect relationship, or achieve a certain level of success, they will finally be happy. But this way of thinking keeps happiness just out of reach, always depending on something external. The truth is, happiness is not a place we arrive at. It is a way of living. It is a decision we make every morning when we wake up. It is in our perspective, our habits, and the way we choose to respond to life's challenges. Life is unpredictable. It is full of ups and downs, victories and disappointments, love and loss. If happiness were based on external circumstances, it would always be fragile, something that could be taken away in an instant. But real happiness is not about what happens to us. It is about how we choose to see what happens. It is about finding meaning even in difficult moments, about seeing the beauty in the ordinary, about appreciating the small things that make life special. The people who are truly happy are not those who have never faced hardship. They are the ones who have learned how to find joy despite it. One of the most powerful ways to create happiness is by focusing on the present moment. Too many people spend their lives either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. They replay old mistakes, carry regrets, and let past pain define them. Or they constantly worry about what is next, fearing failure, rejection, or uncertainty. But life is happening right now, in this very moment. When we are too caught up in the past or the future, we miss the beauty of the present. Happiness comes from learning to be fully present, from truly experiencing life as it happens, from embracing each moment instead of waiting for a better one. Another key to creating happiness is choosing positivity. This does not mean ignoring problems or pretending that everything is perfect. It means making a conscious effort to focus on the good even when things are tough. It means choosing to see challenges as opportunities to grow rather than as reasons to give up. It means training the mind to find the silver lining, to look for lessons instead of disappointments, to believe that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. The way we think shapes the way we feel. A negative mind will never create a positive life. But when we choose to shift our perspective, we start to see happiness in places we never expected. The people we surround ourselves with also play a huge role in our happiness. Energy is contagious, both positive and negative. When we spend time with people who constantly complain, who see the worst in everything, who bring others down, we absorb that energy. It affects the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we see the world. But when we choose to surround ourselves with people who uplift us, who inspire us, who encourage us to grow, we create an environment where happiness can thrive. Relationships should add to our lives, not drain us. Choosing the right people to share our journey with is one of the most important choices we can make for our happiness. Another choice that shapes happiness is the way we treat ourselves. Too many people are their own worst critics. They hold themselves to impossible standards, beat themselves up over mistakes, and never feel like they are enough. It grows when we learn to be kind to ourselves, when we forgive our mistakes, when we celebrate our progress instead of only focusing on how far we have to go. Self-love is not about being perfect. It is about accepting ourselves as we are while continuing to grow. It is about recognizing our worth, setting boundaries, and prioritizing our own well-being. When we choose to treat ourselves with kindness, we create the space for happiness to flourish. Happiness is also deeply connected to purpose. People often feel unfulfilled because they are simply going through the motions, living a life that does not align with what truly matters to them. Finding purpose does not necessarily mean having a grand mission. It can be as simple as doing things that bring us joy, helping others, or pursuing what excites us. It is about waking up each day with a sense of meaning, knowing that our actions matter. When we align our lives with our values, when we do things that make us feel alive, happiness becomes a natural result. One of the greatest choices we can make for happiness is to let go of the things that do not serve us. Holding on to resentment, anger, and grudges only weighs us down. Carrying the burden of things we cannot change keeps us stuck in the past. Fear of what might happen keeps us from truly living. But when we choose to release these things, when we decide to free ourselves from the weight of negativity, we make space for happiness. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means deciding that our peace is more important than holding on to pain. It means choosing to move forward, to focus on what we can control, to create a life that is filled with love instead of bitterness. At the end of the day, happiness is not found in perfection. It is not something we wait for. It is something we build, moment by moment, choice by choice. It is in the way we see the world, the way we treat ourselves, the people we surround ourselves with, and the mindset we cultivate. It is in the decision to focus on gratitude rather than lack, to embrace growth rather than fear, to create joy rather than search for it. The secret to happiness is simple. It is a choice. And when we choose it, we realize that it was never something outside of us. It was within us all along. Happiness is not something we find in the world. It is something we create within ourselves. It is not in perfection, success, or the approval of others, but in the choices we make every day. It is in gratitude, in resilience, in giving without expectation, and in rewriting the stories that hold us back. It is in embracing the present moment, in surrounding ourselves with positivity, and in choosing to see life through a lens of hope and possibility. True happiness is not a destination. It is a journey. One that begins the moment we stop searching for it outside and start creating it within.